On June 9th, Achim Zeileis, professor of statistics, University of Innsbruck, published a forecast built on 100,000 computer simulations. It treats the World Cup as a calculation, using machine learning to find a statistical favorite. But a different picture emerged yesterday from Ray Ratto, who focused on postage stamp nations and the heroics of a keeper like Eloy Room. There is a real puzzle in how these two views sit together. One sees loaded dice favoring the giants, while the other finds meaning in the delicious audacity of the underdog. It's worth pausing on whether the tournament is a math problem to be solved or a drama that only begins when the data fails. Writing earlier this June, Achim Zeileis, professor of statistics, University of Innsbruck, moves away from gut feelings to look at the cold math of the tournament. Notice how the piece frames every match, not as a certainty, but as a roll of loaded dice. This approach accounts for the chaos of a 48-team bracket, where even a favorite like Spain holds just a 14.5% chance of actually lifting the trophy.
In times past, when we wanted to know which team would win the World Cup, we had to turn to seers with crystal balls, use divination via tea leaves, or hope for Paul the Octopus to tell us what would happen. But modern data science can provide a better alternative. As part of a team of statisticians, I helped train a machine learning algorithm to predict the most likely course of the tournament. Probabilistic forecasts and loaded dice. The algorithm we built proceeds in 2 steps. In the first, sophisticated statistical models and expert insight from bookmakers and transfer markets are combined to determine the strengths of all teams and their players. In the second step, a machine learning algorithm decides how to best combine the strength estimates with other information about the teams. This produced a probabilistic forecast for each possible match in the tournament. It can be thought of as a pair of loaded dice. Instead of having the numbers 1 to 6 with equal probabilities, these loaded dice have different probabilities for the number of goals for either team. For example, according to our forecast, Mexico has a die rolling 1.9 goals on average in the opening match, whereas opponent South Africa has an average of only 0.7. But this does not mean that Mexico will surely win. Rather, a win for Mexico is the most likely outcome, with 65% probability. A draw is less likely, 21%, and a win for South Africa is the least likely outcome, 14%. Vuelve a casa. El fútbol vuelve a casa. Using different pairs of loaded dice, the result of each match in the World Cup can be simulated. We took into account the official tournament draw and all FIFA rules, including the possibility of overtime and penalty shootouts. We ran the simulation 100,000 times to determine the tournament's most likely course. The results show that Spain is the favorite for the title, with a winning probability of 14.5%, closely followed by England and France, each at 12.4%, and Germany at 11.2%. Due to the expanded tournament, this World Cup has 48 teams and 5 rounds in the knockout stage. This group of favorites is tightly packed. Portugal and Argentina also have good chances to win the title, at 8.9% and 8.2% respectively. For its part, the United States has a good chance of reaching the round of 32, 78%. This is the highest in their group, which has 3 other teams. In the knockout stage, however, when every match is do or die, the probabilities of the U.S. The teams surviving go down relatively quickly. The probability for a home victory in the final at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on July 19 is 1%. A deeper peek into the engine room. Our machine learning algorithm and subsequent simulations are fueled by data, expert knowledge, and statistical models. First, all national matches over the past 8 years are the basis for a retrospective estimate of the team's strengths. Second, a prospective strength estimate is obtained from quoted odds of various international bookmakers, reflecting their expert opinions about the upcoming tournament. Third, ratings of the individual players are produced based on their contributions to goals at the club and national levels. And finally, the current quality and future potential of the players is reflected in their expected market values. These are available from the Transfermarkt website that uses a wisdom of the crowd approach to estimate the unknown real market values.
These four variables are combined with a broad range of further relevant inputs, reflecting the current states of the different countries and the countries they come from. This includes team-specific details, such as their FIFA rank and the number of players in the semifinals of this year's Champions League. We also factored in country-specific socioeconomic factors, such as GDP per capita. To determine if and how these features are relevant for the actual results in a World Cup, a machine learning algorithm was used. Here, a so-called random forest is trained, consisting of lots of decision trees capturing slightly different subsets of the data. The algorithm has been trained on all matches played at the major soccer tournaments since World Cup 2006. It thus links a team's strength, market value, and other factors to the number of goals scored in matches at World Cups. This is the information that loads the dice for our simulations. Find out more. This is not the first time that our team, comprising Andreas Grohl and Reuven Michels, and colleagues at TU Dortmund University in Germany, Lars Magnus Havatum at Norway's Molde University College, Gunther Schauberger at TU Munich, and I have collaborated to forecast a World Cup. In the 2019 Women's World Cup, we correctly predicted the US as the winner. In the 2023 Women's World Cup and the 2022 Men's World Cup, the winners, Spain and Argentina, respectively, were not our favorites, although we did predict them to be serious contenders.
The bottom line is, forecasts are about probabilities. Our program will not predict the winner with 100% certainty, but it might do better than an 8-limbed mollusk.
Achim Zeileis presents a World Cup that functions like a solved equation. By running 100,000 simulations, the tournament becomes a matter of loaded dice, where favorites like Spain and France are the mathematical inevitabilities. In this model, the 1% probability of a U.S. victory at MetLife Stadium feels less like a hope and more like a rounding error. This perspective suggests that while any single match might flicker with uncertainty, the sheer volume of a 48-team tournament eventually crushes the outliers under the weight of the aggregate. But notice what happens when the focus shifts from the 100,000 simulations to the one specific afternoon that actually takes place on the grass. Ray Ratto, up next, isn't looking for the most likely winner. He is hunting for the delicious audacity of the underdog. Where Zeileis sees a predictable distribution of talent, Ratto finds a 37-year-old goalkeeper from the USL Championship making 15 saves and demanding a statue. Read alongside Zeileis, Ratto's celebration of postage stamp nations like Curacao and Cape Verde acts as a challenge to the data. It surfaces a fundamental question about why the tournament matters, whether the value lies in the statistical crowning of the best team or in the goofy, heroic accidents that the simulations were designed to filter out.
We can cancel the last 66 games of the World Cup right now and fast forward to the final, because we've seen all we have a right to see. Put Curacao and Cape Verde in the final. Make it the revenge of the postage stamp nations, and call it a win. The final may take 3 days before we get a goal, but that's still a far more economical system than the one we have. Not that the other games haven't had their moments, mind you. It's actually been quite the dandy pig pile so far. With the big names, the about-to-be big names, hello Denise Undav and Brian Brobby, and the Dutch royal family flying all over hell trying to catch games for each one of their constituencies. You have, we dare say it, been entertained. But the Blue Sharks and Blue Wave, serendipity is where you find it, have easily been the most charming of the 48 sides, simply by being their wonderfully goofy selves. Cape Verde shut out the mighty Spanish, while, in fairness, being shut out themselves, and 40-year-old goalkeeper Vozinha, who turned away 7 shots, increased the size of his Instagram audience 400 times. It sits at nearly 15 million as we type, only to be outdone by Curaçao's 37-year-old Eloy Room, who made either a record or near-record 15 saves in a 0-0 draw with Ecuador. The ambiguity comes because FIFA, which has a nasty habit of inflating numbers across its many interests, lists the US as Tim Howard with 16 saves against Belgium in 2014, while ESPN and other newses insist that one of the 16 shots was actually off target. If you want to look up which shot it was, you go right ahead. We're still enjoying the delicious up-yours Fox audacity of Japan Tunisia being played at midnight Eastern and have no time for your silly pedantry.
And when we say outdone, Room, who plays for Miami FC in the second-tier USL Championship and previously played for MLS Cup winner Columbus, talked his talk afterward as any instant hero in America would. A little bit annoyed that I don't have the record from Tim Howard, he said in the post-game smack talk. But I think he was sweating in front of the TV because I was close. But no, it's unbelievable, and I cannot do it alone. I did it with the team and my defenders and the midfielders, strikers. We did it as a team. The second part seems a bit of a stretch, though, since Room faced 28 shots in total, which would suggest that the Curaçao backline didn't do all that much to help the cause.
Congratulations to Room, though, for knowing how to keep them on his side. But he rallied from that brief moment of humility to suggest, with a smile, I think I need a statue in Curaçao now. Given that King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima, who are definitely characters in a game on your phone, were in the locker room dancing to our music, according to Room, that seems a doable ask. I mean, if they've got time to go to Houston, watch the Dutch score 5 times against Sweden, and then schlep up to Kansas City for Curaçao, a constituent nation of the Netherlands, it's not like they have more important duties preventing them from approving a statue, as long as they're also willing to chunk in for Brobby and Cody Gakpo. The deeper the run, the more bronze you need, apparently. Between Cape Verde and Curaçao, whose combined population is less than Nashville's, we have our World Cup moments. 2 nations invisible on most maps each have a point in the loftiest competition on the planet, and Curaçao's 0-0 draw obliterates whatever grumpiness they might have exhibited after Germany whomped them 7-1 in the opener. On that day, they were thrilled to have the goal they got from Lovano Comenencia. On this day, well, let the grog and AMFs flow from every home, school, and church. We have seen the future we want, as opposed to the mudslide we have, and it is found in the geriatric goalies and the tiny island nations with the combined area that still makes them smaller than French Polynesia, who never did anyone else any harm, finally finishing off that meek inheriting thing and kicking the world in the ass. We need to contrive a way for them to play for the title, even if it means fixing the odd quarterfinal. Hey, you have your World Cup, and we have ours.
100,000 simulations can map every possible pass, yet they still can't account for the weight of a single postage stamp nation's hope. What lingers is the friction between the cold certainty of a favorite's statistical edge and the messy, unscripted luck of a late-game strike, the kind data can't catch. If the tournament is a math problem, the variables change the moment a human foot touches the ball. When the data predicts a winner before kickoff, what is it that keeps people watching until the final whistle?